Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. Happy New Year, friends. I'm really excited for 2020, and I hope you are as well. Today's episode, I'm going to share the things that I've learned about podcasting over the past year. It's hard to believe that a year ago is when I really started this journey, and I'll get into that into the show. But I don't know if you guys have heard how I actually got started. I want to share with you a little bit about my inspiration. So right before Christmas of 2018, we were driving down to Edisto Beach, South Carolina. I was driving the minivan, and my mother-in-law was sitting in the back seat. And she read this book, What Do You Do with an Idea? And it so inspired me. In fact, the next day I was taking a walk along the beach and I thought, I have an idea. And I got so excited. I ran back to the house and I started sharing it all with Billy. So today's episode, I talk to you about starting a podcast, things to think about, my process, my journey. And if you are wanting to start a podcast, I encourage you to go for it. Now, after you listen to the show, I would love it if you connected with me and let me know what your takeaways are or were. And if you want to join our new group to help therapists get found to be on podcasts, then I hope you come and join. All of that is in this episode, and I really hope you enjoy. Well, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Therapy Show. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard, and today's episode is a solo episode, and I want to share with you all what podcasting has taught me over the past year and give you some tips and ideas to consider if you think you want to begin a podcast. Now, you guys, a year ago is when I had the idea to start a podcast. So coming up on a year, right before Christmas is when my mother-in-law, who is a retired elementary school teacher, read to me and my girls this book, What Do You Do with an Idea? And I can't recall the author off the top of my head, but I will definitely put it in the show notes. You can get on YouTube and you can actually have it be read to you. It's a great book, and it talks about what do you do with an idea? And it talks also about some people are going to think your idea is silly. Some people aren't going to get your idea, but when you can't stop thinking about your idea and you want to take action on it, what is that process like? It's a great book. It's meant for kids, but here I am a year later and I've acted on my idea. So how did I start this podcast? Because I think this is really important, because when you think about starting a podcast, I want to know what is inspiring you. What inspired me was, or is, I am so tired and bored with traditional modes of continuing education for licensed therapists. I'm bored, I'm tired, I don't want to sit at my desk anymore and watch a recorded video. I don't want to have to travel, and sit in a hotel for 6 or 8 hours and listen to an uninspiring presenter. Now, not all of them are like that. Don't get me wrong. I have been to fabulous presentations and continuing education workshops and seminars. But I was at a point where I was like, I would love for this to be more convenient and more easy, right? So that's when I started to look into, well, what would it take to create a podcast where some of the episodes are turned into continuing education contact hours? So that's how I got here. And I knew along the way that I wanted to also bring on folks to talk about professional development for therapists, not just clinical issues all the time or ethics or legalities. I wanted to bring on folks that could inspire us, get us to think outside the box, share what they're doing. Because you guys, I am in my world of what I do. I've been doing for the past 9 years. I'm around a lot of the same people all the time. It's hard for me to get out and network. I have 2 small children or young children. I don't have the time or the energy anymore to get out and go to a lot of networking meetings. But I have social media. I have earbuds. I love to listen. And when I hear somebody who inspires me, I want to reach out to them and I want to thank them and I want to support them. And I also want to get to know them more. So I think that's what I want this podcast to be for our peers is if you hear something that resonates with you, if you want to learn more, I want you to reach out. I want you to become part of our community. I want you to become part of this tribe of therapists that are thinking outside of the box. We're trying new things. We're ready to maybe pivot our skill sets and try something different. I want this is so what I want this podcast to be for. And I hope it inspires you. I hope it gets you thinking differently. Really, that's my goal. And of course, I just want to support you guys. I say it all the time. If I could just like have a day where I hang out with therapists and just be around you guys and brainstorm, that's like the perfect day for me. So when it comes to professional development, that's what I long for. All right. Well, let's talk about, if you want to start a podcast, I want you to know what my process was, because I think it's pretty typical. When I talk to other podcasters out there, we share a very similar process. We share a very similar journey, and we come across the same issues. So I'm just going to share with you what it was like for me, what I did when I hit an obstacle, how I got inspired, all that good stuff. So first and foremost, I knew that if I was going to start a podcast, I had to really hone in on my niche. I had to get really specific on what I wanted to provide content on. I had to get really specific on what my ideal listener would want content on. And I knew I wanted to do this for therapists. I just knew it was on my heart. And so I kept thinking, what do therapists want? What do they need? And really what I did was, after I kind of got the image of, Jessica, I call her Jessica, the therapist that I do this for, I had my avatar in my head. And what I did was, when I researched, I think it was John Lee Dumas has a free beginner's guide to podcasting, and you can get it on YouTube. You can get it on his website, Entrepreneurs on Fire. And he has a great a great read on how to figure out your avatar. And so I devoured that in a couple days. And that really got me thinking about what my ideal listener was all about. So I really encourage you to get on there. It's free. You can read it, and it's just going to probably bring on more ideas for you. And maybe you'll decide like podcasting isn't your thing, but maybe just by reading that, you'll kind of get clear on what your ideal customer wants and what you might be able to create for your ideal customer. Okay. Number 2 is, I had to decide how much time I had to commit to podcasting. I work a full-time job. I'm a full-time mom. I'm a full-time wife. So I had to get really focused on how much time could I put aside every week to work on creating content, finding guests, learning how to podcast, all that stuff. In the beginning, in my pockets of my day, I was reading the John Lee Dumas, guide. And then on top of that, I was brainstorming ideal guests. Like, who did I want to have on my show? And y'all, I put some big names in the therapy world on my list. And I knew that I just had to kind of, like they say, go for no. I had to just start asking these people to come on my show. So what I did was I wrote up a really detailed, description of what the show is and what my hopes are for the show. And I sent that email out to a bunch of people, and I had a bunch of crickets, and then I had a bunch of, yes, I'd love to come and be on your show. Now, I will share that I got lucky in the beginning because I know a lot of great therapists locally. So I reached out to them, and they were like, yeah, I want to support you 100%. What do you need me to do? Because I've known them for years and years. They're so good at what they do. They really wanted to get, their content out there. So it was kind of like, I would suggest going to the people that your warm market or your warm world first, if that makes sense. So if you have like great therapist friends who have expertise, start with them. And, of course, if your podcast isn't going to be geared around the therapy world, then, you got to think differently. But that's how I thought about it. Was I went to my peers, I went to my colleagues first, and I got some amazing guests on pretty quickly. Hey friend, want to be more comfortable while sitting on the therapy couch? I sure did, and went looking for pants and tops that were soft, wrinkle resistant, and would match just about anything I already had in my closet. And now Zaya Active makes up about 80% of my wardrobe. Would you like to learn more? Head over to my site, lisamustard.com, and click on the Activewear tab. And don't think this is just for women. They have men's and kids' clothes too. And our family is loving the quality, and I am loving the price tag. So head over to my site to check it all out. And then I just started to record and bank as many as I could. Try to be ahead of my schedule a couple weeks. Now, I'll be honest, that's been difficult for me just because of my work and my schedule. And my intention and my aim is to release one episode every week. So I've been staying ahead of that, which has been great. I have about 4 or 5 kind of in the bank, and then I would release one, and then I would start, record more. So think about how much time you have to commit to podcasting. You can start with just 1 to 2 hours a week. And then as you kind of get a flow down, as you get a system down, you'll be able to spend probably the same amount of time, but you'll be more productive. Don't worry. Don't be upset with yourself if, the learning curve can be really big and steep right now, but that's okay. We're all beginners at one time or another, and we have to learn how to figure these things out. Now, I'll be honest, I knew I did not want to deal with editing the podcast, and I didn't want to deal with having to build a website. I knew that if I tried to figure those things out, my self-care would suffer, my sleep would suffer, my family would suffer, because nobody wants Lisa trying to figure out those technical things, especially Lisa, because I just knew I wanted to just have it done. I didn't want to think too much about it. Maybe down the road I'll learn a little bit more about it, but I went and found a great podcast editor, engineer, and I also found a great website developer, and I just said, I'm going to hire these two and not worry about it, because I just knew that my self-care was just too important, and my family would not want me on a computer all the time. I wanted to spend my time, creating content, inviting guests on, doing the shows. That's how I really want to spend my time. So think about where your skill sets lie. Maybe you're really techie and that excites you, learning how to edit and build a website. Then go for it. That's not me though. And if it's you, you're awesome. Good for you. That's just awesome. All right. So what else has podcasting taught me? Good is better than perfect. Y'all, my first couple episodes, if you go back and listen to them, while I think the content is really good, I know as a host, I have gotten better. I know as a host, I'm much more energetic now. I have more confidence in myself. I feel like I'm finding my voice. I feel as though my questions are getting better. My interviewing is getting better. I just feel like it's kind of like it's just a progression of skill sets. So just remember that you got to start somewhere, and good is better than perfect. Please don't get caught in perfectionism, because you'll never move forward. You'll never record. You'll never get moving. Oh, and by the way, I want you to know, when you record, you can do it on your computer. I do it on my PC. I have a microphone hooked up to it, and I use Zoom. I record my episodes on Zoom. So you don't need any fancy equipment. I mean, I definitely invested in a good mic. I invested in a mic stand. But besides that, I already had Zoom I was using for other things. So I just learned how to use Zoom. And my audio engineer, she really prefers that too, because when you interview somebody on Zoom, it breaks it into 2 tracks. And that's just what she tells me. That's what she prefers than just sending over 1 track. So Zoom has been great for me. So yes, good is better than perfect. Get her done. Y'all heard that saying, get her done. So get her done. See, what else can what else can I recommend? I was really worried in the beginning, who's going to listen? My mom? Yeah. My husband? No, he really doesn't listen very much. He'll listen to the intro for me, but he's not really interested in the topic because he's not a therapist, right? So how do I get people to listen to my show? Honestly, I just network and connect like a mad woman. But you guys remember, I don't have time to be out and about, right? So I do most of my networking and connecting on social media. And that's really how I've started to spread the word about the show. That's how I've gotten new and, amazing guests onto the podcast. And the more that I bring people on, they share it within their network, with their audience, it comes back and I get more downloads. So don't feel as though just because nobody's listening in the beginning, or you're wondering how's this all going to play out. It is totally possible. And I haven't even worked on the SEO on my website yet. Actually, that's something that I'm about to jump into here over the winter, is SEOing my website so I can get more traffic to my website. I know that's super, super important. I'm also working on becoming a guest on other folks' podcasts. And speaking of becoming a guest and networking and connecting, we just opened up the Talk Therapist Lounge on Facebook. If you are a clinician and you're looking to be on podcasts, come join the group. And if you are a podcast host and you're looking to have licensed mental health clinicians on your show, come join the group, because we have a variety of mental health clinicians with a variety of expertise. It's pretty amazing. We're growing the group. It's coming to life. We're having some really good folks join the group, and I want to help my peers get their goodness out there on other podcasts. So it's really important for, if you are in mental health and you're a licensed clinician and you want to get featured on a podcast, I hope you will come join this group. And even right now, if you're like, oh, Lisa, I would love that, but I'm kind of nervous and I'm kind of scared and I don't really know how to get myself on a podcast, come on in, because I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you what works. I'm going to teach you the simple things you can do. If you just have a couple 1 to 2 hours a week to focus on getting yourself on podcasts, it can help you grow your visibility. It's going to help you grow your client base. It can help you grow an online course maybe that you're offering. I mean, it really is an incredible platform to get heard and to get seen. When people hear that you're on a podcast, it kind of takes your authority level up just a notch, right? And it's been pretty amazing, the opportunities that have presented themselves to me over the past couple of months since I've started the podcast. So with all of that being said, these are the things that I've learned over the past year. I want to pass on to you, my amazing peers and colleagues. I want to help you guys get on shows, so come join the group. And if you have, found any of my podcast episodes helpful over this year, I really would appreciate you sharing it if it makes sense for you and your audience. If you would like me to cover some clinical issues that I haven't covered yet, you can always shoot me an email or find me on Facebook or Instagram. My email is hello@lisamustard.com. And I would love to hear from you. So I hope you guys found this episode helpful. I would love for you to come join the group, the Talk Therapist Lounge over on Facebook. If you are a podcast host and you're looking to find licensed mental health clinicians to be on your show, come join the group. Check out what we got, what my peers have to offer you. And I hope that you enjoy the show. Thank you so much for being here. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.